Grandpa's just old, that's all. These were the words I heard from my mother's lips. As she hung the garlands around the tree and straightened out the stockings, the last decorations of Christmas were being hung. The details of our Christmas gathering were almost in place. An illuminated snowman stood proudly on the front lawn.
Of Christmas. A light snow fell, but inside it was warm next to the fire. Grandpa's just old, that's all. Mother saw me watching Grandpa as he stood by the window, staring out into the darkness. It seemed to me that he was looking for something, waiting.
What's the matter, Grandpa?
He hadn't heard me. In fact, Grandpa rarely heard anything anymore. Father said it was his hearing. It went a while back, years ago, around Christmas time, when Grandma took ill and died. It was as though he didn't want to hear the news. He was almost stone deaf these days.
Dinner's ready!
I stood there watching Grandpa by the window. I could see his lips moving, so I inched a little closer to make out what he was singing. It was a song I could barely make out, and it was a little off-key. He was singing, "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day." It was his favorite. In the old days, when I was only 3 or 4, I remember he used to sing that same song all the time at Christmas. Grandpa had a good voice once, but now some of the notes got moved around, and it didn't really seem like he could sing much louder than he already was. I thought it might be because he was sad, but as I got closer, I could see his eyes were bright, and there was a hint of a smile on his face. I felt very curious watching him stare out the window. What was he looking at? Or was he looking for something? I couldn't tell.
I said dinner's ready! Grandpa's just old, that's all. Let's go on, let's go get to dinner. Dad, dinner's ready!
He turned around, not like he was startled or anything, but in a slow, careful way. And then he saw me standing there, and he smiled. And I saw it. For the briefest second, I saw it. His eyes twinkled, the corner of his mouth turned up, and he smiled. Then he put the index finger of his right hand on his nose, and he winked at me. It was a game we'd played since I was a little boy. It always meant, on the nose, that I had gotten something right.
Dad, I said dinner is ready.
Yes, dear. Merry Christmas to you, too.
It was later in the evening that Grandpa stood and watched his grandson looking out the window. Even from a distance, he could see he was watching the wind carry tufts of snow from the roof, sending it swirling into the night sky. As the snow passed in front of the house lights, it created the illusion of figures dancing in the air. The same figures Grandpa had been watching only a few hours before. Reindeer and faces of elves, a long sleigh with shining bells glistening, the white beard of an old man in the outline of a snow-trimmed suit through the red lights. And perhaps, just perhaps, the hint of a long train racing through the sky as the snow rushed past, hissing and squealing in the night.
He's just a child, that's all. Mwah.
It's coming.
What's coming, Grandpa?
I was your age when it came the first time. I'll never forget the clatter it made, the way it circled around in the sky, or the way it landed right in front of our house. Much bigger than I ever thought it would be. More magical, too. But the most interesting part, the thing I'll never forget, was how I knew it was coming. That was the darndest thing. It was as though I knew it was coming. I could feel it inside me. I'll never forget that I knew it was coming.
Knew what was coming, Grandpa? Do you mean Santa and his sleigh?
You'd think an old man would let go, like me, would let go of something that happened so long ago. But not only have I not forgotten, it seems I can't lose it. Once you hear it, once you see it, once you feel it, it's as real as the first time it happens.
You mean you saw Santa? Some of the kids at school have tried to tell me that it wasn't true, and that he didn't really come, and that it's just a story, and that it really doesn't happen. But I know it's not true. Sometimes when I can just tell when you look out the window, and I lay in bed at night, I can just tell that he's out there somewhere.
Did you know that I used to sit and look out this window with your mother? And we would look at the snow falling and laugh at the shapes we could see. And we could hear the sound of it on the wind, and we knew it was coming. And she never, but one year, she didn't want to sit with me anymore. And she never did again. And you know what? It stopped coming. Until tonight.
You mean Santa? Then he took his index finger and put it on his nose, and he winked, and they both laughed. And after a pat on the head, the little boy curled up and went out like a light. And he dreamt of a Christmas that he knew was coming, in his heart that was coming.
I remember on Christmas Eve that year, I lay curled up, almost asleep in the chair.
And from where I lay, I could just glimpse the snow falling outside the window. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently, listening for a sound I somehow knew I would hear, the ringing of bells on Santa's sleigh. It was true, friends from school would shout in a mean way, "There is no Santa," but I knew they were wrong. I'm not sure how, maybe it was something in my bones, but I knew they were wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not the ringing of bells. From outside came the sound of hissing steam and squealing metal. I looked through my window, and I saw a train coming closer and closer to my house as I sat in my chair, watching and waiting. Soon I saw the train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam, as snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars and looked up at my window. A red scarf covered his face, and only his eyes peered through, but he tipped his cap and waited for me to come down there. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door, still in my pajamas and bathrobe.
All aboard! Well, are you coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course.
Of course I'm coming.
I took his outstretched hand and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. With a great hiss and a loud tug on the whistle, the train lurched forward. Faster and faster we raced, past the lights of the towns and the villages which flickered in the distance. The Polar Express raced northward. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we could scrape the moon, but the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed a barren desert of ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea.
There is the North Pole.
The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone on the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas present and toy was made.
We are entering the center of the city. This is where Santa will give the first gift for Christmas.
Who will receive the first gift?
One of you.
As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's elves. When the Polar Express could go no further, we stopped and the conductor led us outside. We pressed through the edge of a crowd at the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, Santa Claus appeared. He marched over to us. Then he turned. He stroked his long beard and looked out into the calm night sky. Then, in an instant, he turned around and pointed directly at me.
Santa's finger almost landed on the boy's nose. He laughed and said in a merry way,
"Let's have this boy here." What would you like for Christmas?
All of a sudden, I realized I could have any gift I could imagine, any toy or game, any book, CD. Gosh, I could even have a puppy. But it dawned on me then that none of those things was what I really wanted. I knew the thing I wanted most was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was a bell from Santa's sleigh.
"A bell, please."
Very well then. The first gift of Christmas.
Now you're welcome to join the junior choir in singing Deck the Halls, hymn number 235 in our hymnal.
We're going to sing the verse 1 once before you join us. So we'll actually sing verse 1 and then we'll do it again with you. So please rise if you're willing or able.
A clock struck midnight.
As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see my bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I couldn't believe it. It couldn't have been true. but it was. I had lost the silver bell from Santa's sleigh. I wanted to go outside and look for it, but it was too late. The doors had closed, and we were on our way home. It broke my heart to lose the bell. I couldn't do anything but ride the way home with one finger sticking out the hole in my bathrobe. And when the train reached my house, I stood at the doorway and sadly waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the train, but I couldn't hear him.
What?
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas to you too.
I turned around to get in from the cold, and then I turned back again. For I thought, just for an instant, as he got back on the train, I saw the conductor do something very odd. I swear I could see him put a finger to his nose, offer the faintest hint of a grin from underneath his red scarf, and throw a wink in my direction.
And without any fanfare, the Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and sped away.
Christmas came almost without my having to close my eyes or sleep at all. But it seemed as though I must have slept, because when I opened my eyes, I was back in my chair in the blanket with my blanket wrapped around me. The snow had stopped falling, and it was a bright, clear, frosty morning. I rubbed my eyes and wondered whether I had dreamt the whole thing. Trains, elves, and sleigh bells, and Santa and everything else. I sat up in the chair and noticed I was still in my bathrobe. I clearly remembered all the details of my dream. It felt so real. I almost was sad all over again about losing the sleigh bell Santa had given me. I laughed for a moment, then my family came into the living room getting ready to open presents. When everyone had opened all the gifts under the tree, I sat back in my chair, put my hands in my pockets and sighed. My finger poked through the hole in my bathrobe, and I suddenly felt sad again.
That can't be. There's got to be something else here, but where?
And then, as if out of nowhere, a little red box appeared in his hand. Then he turned and crooked his head just so to look at me. And he held the box out in front of me, the very one he'd shown me the night before.
Here it is. Special delivery, just to you.
I pulled my finger out of the hole in my pocket and took the box into my lap. It had my name on it. I opened it carefully and peered inside, and for a moment I was too startled to speak. Inside, the silver bell, the one that I had lost in my pocket. Next to the bell was a note. It read,
Found this next to the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C.
I took the bell from the box and shook it. It made the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Then I saw the bell that Grandpa had. He pulled it out of the box of his own.
I got this bell so many years ago. I was beginning to think I had dreamed the whole thing. But I hadn't. It wasn't a dream. It was real. It is real.
Then he rang his bell. It rang in perfect harmony with mine. Together they sounded just like Santa's sleigh had flown into the room. What a sound! What a wonderful, magical, glorious sound.
That's too bad. They must be broken.
They don't make them like they used to, do they, dear?
No, they certainly don't.
You two may be the only ones in the world with sleigh bells that are silent.
And it dawned on me then that my parents had not been able to hear the sound of the bells. They could not hear them at all. I looked at Grandpa, who was still ringing his bell and laughing out loud. How is it that somebody nearly completely deaf could hear the bells, could feel the magic of Christmas, and my healthy, rational parents could miss the whole thing entirely? Something happens, I figured, when you grow up too fast. We are in such a hurry to listen to our senses, we forget to listen to our heart. For that is where the bells ring. The bells are for all those who truly believe. I scratched my head and leaned over towards Grandpa.
They're just parrots, that's all.
At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Sometimes the most faithful awake one Christmas morning, unable to hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old now, with children of my own, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all those who listen, not only with their ears, but with their hearts.
You may be seated. Special thanks to all our actors and musicians and the people behind the scenes who made all this possible today. You may remain seated as we recite our congregational benediction in your order of service. May the blessings of truth be upon us. May the power of love direct us. And may the peace of this community sustain us until we meet again.